We no longer want to witness the conflict between Kim and Kourtney on The Kardashians. Hi, before we continue, please subscribe to the channel for all Kardashians news and update. People who have sisters often understand how difficult those relationships can sometimes be. There are moments when you love your sister more than anything in the world, but there are also times when you can feel completely frustrated, ignored, or even hurt by her actions. This is something many viewers have seen over and over again while watching the reality show The Kardashians. The show doesn't only display the glamorous lifestyle of the famous Kardashian family, but also gives people a close and sometimes uncomfortable look into the emotional conflicts between sisters. Among all the sisters on the show, Kim and Kourtney Kardashian have had one of the most talked about and painful relationships. Many people are now saying they are tired of watching them argue, fight, or get cold with one another. They just want to see peace between them again. If you look closely at the Kardashian family, you'll notice that the five sisters all have strong and unique personalities. Each of them brings something different to the table. But there's another important part of their dynamic that people sometimes overlook, and that is the order in which they were born. It might sound strange at first, but psychologists say birth order can shape the way people act, think, and react to others in the family. In fact, it plays a bigger role than many realize. Dr. Catherine Salmon, a professor of psychology, has explained how this works. She says that the way parents treat their children and the competition between siblings can have a deep impact on how each child develops emotionally. This is connected to the work of a famous psychologist named Frank Sulloway. He believed that children are shaped by something called niche differentiation. That means when kids grow up with siblings, they try to become different in order to stand out and get the attention they feel they need. So the younger child might take on a new role or personality because the older sibling already filled a certain space in the family. This happens so each child can feel special in their own way. Now, let's look at how this might explain what's been going on between Kim and Kourtney. Kim was born in 1980 and Kourtney in 1979. They are only 1 year apart in age, which means they were basically growing up side by side. Because they are so close in age and yet different in personality, the chances of rivalry were high from the very beginning. And as they grew up, the difference in how the world saw them got even wider. Kim eventually became the most famous sister in the family, and her popularity kept growing fast. Her fame has reached every corner of the globe. She became a fashion icon, businesswoman, and someone people around the world talk about every day. But while Kim's star kept rising, Kourtney's journey seemed quieter. That kind of situation would be difficult for any older sibling to deal with, especially when it starts to feel like the whole world is celebrating the younger sister more. For Kourtney, being the firstborn sister in the family came with its own hopes and expectations. She was the first to become a mother. She was the first in the family to have children and start building a serious long-term relationship. But somehow, the attention never stayed on her for very long. Most of the time, it would swing right back to Kim. That has been the story for years, and it would be completely understandable for Kourtney to feel like her own path was being ignored. She has probably spent a lot of time feeling like people only saw her as Kim's sister, and not someone with her own unique light. When the family was still doing their reality show with the E! Network, their personal drama played out in a certain way. But once they moved to Hulu and started filming The Kardashians under a new format, everything started to feel more intense. Viewers noticed that things between Kim and Kourtney seemed more emotional than before. Tensions rose during the time Kourtney was preparing for her big wedding to Travis Barker, the rock musician she fell in love with. What was supposed to be one of the happiest times in her life turned out to be filled with stress and arguments. Instead of getting full support and attention from her sister, Kourtney felt like she was in a tug of war for the spotlight. That moment became one of the biggest signs that the bond between the two had become very fragile. Psychologists who study family behavior say that this kind of situation is actually more common than people think. A few experts, including Abigail Lev, Ora de los Santos, and Dr. Jameka Woody Cooper, have shared their thoughts on how deep-rooted these kinds of sibling conflicts can be. They explain that when sisters fight, it's not just about the present argument. Often, those fights come from old feelings that were never addressed when they were younger. Unlike disagreements between friends, sister fights can feel more painful because they are tied to history. If a sister felt ignored, less loved, or always compared to another sister while growing up, that pain doesn't go away just because they become adults. It stays there and can come out later in ways that might surprise people. For Kourtney, the emotions likely built up over many years. She might have felt that her efforts to live a happy, healthy life were not seen as valuable as Kim's rise to fame. Even when she did something meaningful or tried to express herself in her own way, people around her, and maybe even inside her family, paid more attention to what Kim was doing instead. That would make anyone feel invisible, even when cameras are following you every day. Some people say Kourtney shows this through what they call her tantrums. But others argue that those moments are not about being dramatic. They are emotional reactions from someone who feels left behind. When someone is constantly compared to another person, especially someone as powerful and well-known as Kim, it can cause inner pain that shows up in emotional outbursts. It is not just jealousy. It is sadness, frustration, and a feeling of not being seen. The truth is, many viewers of the show have had enough of the fights between Kim and Kourtney. Not because they do not care about them, but because it hurts to watch two sisters who clearly love each other get stuck in such an unhealthy place. People remember when they were closer, laughed together, and supported one another. That connection made the show special. So now, watching them throw insults, avoid each other, or argue about things that seem deeper than they appear is just sad for most fans. They miss the bond and want the sisters to work through their issues instead of letting the fights define their relationship. Kim, being in the middle of global attention, may not fully understand how her actions or success can make others in the family feel. From the outside, it may look like she has it all together. But fame brings its own stress, and she may feel like she is constantly working to keep her position in a fast-moving world. Still, that does not erase the need to slow down and notice how her rise may affect her closest relationships, especially with someone as important as her older sister. Kourtney, on the other hand, has often spoken about wanting peace and space. She has mentioned several times how draining it can be to constantly have to defend herself or explain her feelings to people who do not seem to listen. It's clear she values emotional safety over fame. And while both sisters are successful in their own way, their definitions of happiness are very different. That's not a bad thing, but it becomes a problem when one sister feels judged by the other for making different choices. Thanks for watching. Please do well to share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more Kardashian updates.